Hello everyone, how's it going? I'm Luke, and today we're going to be ranking every single Hollow Knight Silksong tool from worst to best via tier lists. Stick around to the end, maybe you'll learn a few things. And without further ado, let's get going. Alright, before we get into this, I just want to remind a few of you to like and subscribe if you haven't yet. It is completely free to do so. Just click down on that button right down there below, somewhere over here. I don't know exactly where. It's on your screen. You can find it yourself. I do not need to guide you to it. But yeah, it is completely free to do so. We are a small new channel and would really appreciate the support that brings. So, I mean, you don't have to, but it would be great and it would make me happy. And you don't want me to be mad, do you? I'm kidding. No, do whatever you want, but do subscribe. It's fun. All right. Anyways, without further ado, before I rattle on about random stuff too much, we are going to just jump right in. And first up, we have the Pimpillo. This tool is essentially a giant bomb that you can chuck at enemies. It blows up, and it does a lot of damage. Not much to it, but, I mean, yeah, it's solid. It's solid. I never really used it much, but for what it does it pretty well. I put it right there in the middle. You can throw it into Geralt the Great's mouth while he is using his suck attack, which does a lot of damage. So it's useful there. It's like the King Dodongo from Ocarina of Time, where you chuck the bomb into his mouth. Really fun. Alright, next up is Chakra's Throwing Rings. Now, Chakra's Throwing Rings is I really like this one for a long time. It's essentially just a normal, just like the straight pane essentially, where you just chuck a ring across the arena, but if it hits an enemy, it'll bounce off that enemy and hit another enemy, and then it'll keep bouncing off enemies, so you can hit a lot of enemies with just this one thing. So it also does pretty solid damage, and when paired with the Pullet Pouch, it can do some pretty hefty poison damage too. So I'm going to put it in A tier, honestly, just because it was one of my favorite red tools, offensive tools in the game. So yeah, definitely recommend it. All right, next up, I believe this is called the Ascendant's Grip. This one's pretty useful, especially when you go to like Mount Faye or whatever and have all these platforming challenges ahead of you. Um, yeah, I ended up using this one a lot. It really helps you just kind of sit there, be able to just sit there on the wall and get your bearings without having to like keep wall jumping. So you can like plan your strategy for whatever this next segment of platforming is that you have to do. So it was pretty useful. I definitely used it a few times. It wasn't amazing though, and besides that, it doesn't really do much else anywhere else in the game. So while it is fun, it's probably just right there in B tier, honestly, for me. Our next up, we have the Barbed Bracelet. This one's interesting. I never really used it much personally, but essentially what it does is it increases the damage you deal with your needle, but it also increases the damage you take, so it kind of evens out there. If you're really good at dealing damage and not getting hit, this is definitely the tool for you. If you're not, I mean, you already take so much damage in this game, so just adding more to that makes it kind of ridiculous. So yeah, I never really use this one. I don't really see many other people use it, so I'm gonna put it in C tier, honestly. I mean, it's not terrible, but I never it in a game where you take so much damage already, you can ill afford to take even more damage. All right, Polyp Pouch. Polyp Pouch is fantastic. Easy, high A tier. The only reason it's not S tier is because late game you really want more of those other really good blue tools, and like the difference between that one and the difference between like say Polyp Pouch or something like Weave Light, which allows you to get more silk for healing on like say um Lost Lace or something. Like it's a major difference. Plus, if you think about it, like the Polyp Pouch, it does really good early game damage, but it just kind of it gets outclassed. I mean, the poison really helps. It can be really helpful in certain circumstances, especially when you pair it with Cogflies. But personally, it's amazing. Like, don't get me wrong, but it's not quite S tier, if you know what I mean. It's really good. Essentially, what it does is it pairs with any of your red tools, which are your offensive tools, and it's basically just adds like a poison status effect to them. So if you hit an enemy with the tool, they begin to like have their health drained, like a few ticks of damage off of the poison. So it's really useful in that regard. Definitely amazing in the early game, not as much in the late game. All right, next up we have the Dead Bug's Purse. This one is very good. It basically just makes you keep like half your rosaries or something whenever you die. So if you're just dying over and over again in this really hard to get to area, then it's definitely useful to have. But um, I'd say most of the places that you're gonna end up dying a lot on, and without being able to easily get back, are places you're gonna end up dying a lot on. So I mean, like having like your rosary count is still going to go down, if you know what I mean, and it's usually not too bad to get back to your cocoon. Plus, I mean, it is a yellow tool, so yellow tools can be very good. Or there aren't a lot of yellow good tool. Sorry, there aren't a lot of really good yellow tools, so it's useful for what it is. I'm gonna put it in C tier though, just because I never used it. I feel like, in my opinion, there are better yellow tools than that one. But if you find up if you find yourself dying a lot, then it's definitely worth it. Delver's Drill. This one essentially just gives Hornet like a ground pound attack. Not much of note. Just drills downward into enemies. I feel like there are way better red tools, but if you could find a good use for this, it's definitely useful. But in my opinion, I just never used it. Here we go. Here we go. Magnetite Brooch. Now, this one, a bit of a hot take here. I actually really like the Magnetite Brooch. I don't know why. It's just like something about not having to go to all the stress of running around picking up all those rosaries on the ground is just so useful. Like back in the first Hollow Knight game, like you have Gathering Swarm, which you can't really use much except for like early game because you can't waste your charm slots on something that simple. But in this game, it's a yellow tool, and you usually have a lot of yellow tool slots. Plus, like I said earlier, there's not a lot of really good yellow tools. So this one is just so good for the convenience it brings to your playthrough. It's easily a high A tier. I used it like as soon as I got it, I almost never took it off ever because I always had yellow slots available. Yeah. Same kind of holds true for the compass, which is the next one we're going to talk about. Compass, though, honestly, compass is S tier. It's low S tier, but it's still definitely S tier. Another bit of a hot take, probably for some of you, but especially with like your first playthrough where you don't have the map like completely memorized, it's like just being able to pull up your map and check your location just like that is so valuable. Like in the first game, you had to balance like using your compass or not because you had all these other tools that you wanted to use. So like once you kind of started to memorize the game, you didn't need it as much because you had other tools, better tools. But in Silksong, it's like the reverse is true. Like the map is so big that it's really hard to just kind of memorize the whole thing unless you're like a speedrunner or something. Um, so this one's really useful to just pull up. Plus, again, you don't have a lot of good yellow tools, so might as well fill it with this one. Personally, I really like it. I used it the entire time, almost never took it off. It is amazing. I highly recommend it. All right, next up is the Rosary Cannon. I don't like the Rosary Cannon because there are much better red tools than this one, and I don't want to waste my rosaries shooting a bad guy. I mean, I'm sure it does decent damage, but all the enemies like you rosaries are so valuable in that game. Like some of the stuff you can get is amazing, and you definitely want to save your money as much as you can because you also lose it all when you die. So it's tough. I'm not gonna go around just shooting enemies with my valuable rosaries. I don't want to lose them. There are much better red tools for this kind of thing. So I'm gonna go D tier, honestly. Okay, Flea Brew. Flea Brew is I've heard Flea Brew is really good. I never used it personally, but I hear that when paired with Pollet Pouch or yeah, I hear that when paired with Pollet Pouch, it is amazing. Essentially what it does is you have like a few different like drinks you can take. It's like essentially like a drug shot or something where you just take the drug and then you just like go like crazy like spamming like your attack speed becomes much higher. Plus, if you have Pollet Pouch also equipped, you get the poison status effect applied to your weapon when you have the Flea Brew equipped. So yeah, it's very useful. I've seen it used in a lot of different builds, and it looks really powerful. I'm gonna put it in A tier, low A tier for me though, because I personally, again, I never used it, but I've seen this thing can get amazing if you use it correctly. Plasmium File, Plasmium Files, Plasmium File is pretty good. I mean, as far as red tools go, it doesn't have any offensive abilities, which you usually want your red tools to be offensive abilities. But for what it does, it's pretty darn solid. Like who doesn't want extra health whenever they want? Um, I'm pretty sure you do have to refill it at a specific place, at least until you get like a certain upgrade. So you have to every time you run out, like you can't just sit at a bench and refill it. You have to return to this place to refill it. In the worm ways, I believe. Yeah. But once you get the ability that lets you just refill it whenever you want, it's pretty useful. I've seen a lot of people just like take a few shots. It's like a little elderberry gummy. Like take some extra immunity. Then you just take a few, and then it's like, oh, I'm buff now. And then you could take a few more hits on like the final boss or whatever. So it's pretty useful for what it does. Me personally, I'm a big Wanderer's Crest guy, so you only have the one red tool slot. Personally, I don't value this as that, so it's definitely I gotta put it in high B tier probably, not quite A tier for me. Um, Claw mirrors. I'm gonna pair these two together because they basically just do the same thing. One is just an upgraded version of the first, but yeah, I've seen this one used. I mean, especially in speedrunning when you're doing the any percent run, this is like one of the only tools you get. So this is one of your main sources of damage because you just heal, especially like with the High Hall's Gauntlet, you just heal and it has those firework attacks that really help. Um, yeah, it's pretty solid. I mean, it's a good source of damage. I like it. I mean, nothing bad about it, nothing amazing about it either. So yeah, I'm gonna go B tier. I'm gonna go B tier for both because I'm just pairing them together. It's basically the same thing. Actually, no, I'll put the first one, the first claw mirror, in C tier, high C tier, just because why not? Next one. Next up is the Cogwork Wheel. This one's really fun, especially if you can get the right spacing between you and your enemy when you release it. It can deal so much damage. Essentially, what it is it's like a saw blade that you can put on the ground, and it'll just like kind of slowly speed up and roll at enemies on the ground. If you get ideal spacing, then it kind of like has a point where if you like get it right when it go before it goes on camera, if it hits an enemy right there, then it just like and then leaves. It is super useful. Really does a lot of damage. I really like this one. I'm definitely gonna go. The one thing is you cannot hit flying enemies with it, and there are a lot of flying enemies in that game. And I mean, the amount of times you actually find like just a flat surface of ground with a bunch of enemies on it is not very high. I mean, there are opportunities where this is very useful, but the lack of hitting flying enemies, unless you kind of jump above them and drop it on them, is not is it doesn't help it out very much. I'm gonna go B tier, high B tier, but still B tier. All right, the Conch Cutter, I believe it's called. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but yeah, Conch Cutter is pretty good. I mean, nothing wrong with it. It's a little hard to kind of aim, so it's like a bit of a risk because it just bounces on its own. If you can aim it well, it's pretty good. It's more annoying when the conch cutters are being fired at you by those conch enemies in the blasted steps and the Sands of Karak. But yeah, it's pretty good. Nothing. I don't have anything against it. I'm gonna go like a low B tier. Yeah, that sounds good. All right. Next up, here we go. The curve claw and the curve sickle. Now these, I never used the curve claw, but once I got the curve sickle, it was so useful and fun to use so that I loved it right away. It was my main offensive weapon, my main red tool. It's kind of between this and the cogfly, probably, now that I think about it. But yeah, it's just fantastic. Um, if you get again, it's similar to like the cogwork wheel. If you get the ideal spacing and like kind of throw it at the right angle, then if it hits it, once it makes contact with an enemy, especially the bigger the enemy is, it can do a ton of ticks of damage, like, and there's just something so satisfying about watching that happen, especially against like Scarsing or Carmelita, where you just like she's over there and then you throw it and it just like goes up through her big frame. It's like, oh my gosh, I love it. Yeah. As far as red tools go, this is definitely top tier for me. So, as far as curve claw goes, I don't know much. I think it's pretty similar to the curve sickle. So I'm gonna put the curve claw in like a low A tier probably because I really like it. But curve sickle is low S tier for me because it is phenomenal. I barely used anything else. Right, here we go. Here we go. This is it, guys. This is it. The magnetite dice. This guy right here, S tier, easy S tier. This guy's like the goat of the game. Because I mean, this is easily the best yellow tool. It far outshines everything else in the game. And I mean, like I've said several times, yellow tools there aren't a lot of good ones, and you have a lot of space for them, so they're relatively easy to just click to just put on whenever you want. And then this one, you can literally just leave it there and not pay any attention to it, and it'll like randomly absorb ticks of damage for you for free. It is amazing. It's like the one charm from the Grim in the first game. I forget what it's called. There's Carefree Melody, that one. But it's basically free to put on because it's a yellow tool. And it is just the amount of times it actually ends up working too are like noticeable. Like it can make this is a difference maker right here. It is phenomenal. I highly recommend it. Get it as soon as you can, equip it, and never look back. Alright, next up is the Egoflealia. I mean, it's solid. There's nothing bad about it necessarily. It is very limited though, because what it does is it essentially decreases the cost of silk skills, but only while your HP is full, I believe. So I may be wrong on that, but personally, I never used it. I didn't end up using silk skills as much. My builds were more focused on red tools and just nail spamming. Because I mostly use my silk for healing purposes. So, I mean, it's solid. It's not great though, because it's very situational. Only if you have a specific build, it doesn't really help much otherwise. And it's really hard to get. You only get it like at the end of the game, I believe, once you get all the fleas, which is very painful to do. I'm gonna put it in C tier, just because it's there. It's not bad. It's not amazing though. So, yeah. All right, spool extender. This one is pretty useful. I mean, it is a blue tool. I feel like there are better blue tools. What it does is it just basically increases the amount of silk you can carry. So it just gives you an extra reserve of silk, which is pretty useful. I mean, yeah, nothing bad about it. Once you kind of reach the max, once you get all the silk spool half pieces, then it doesn't really help much because it doesn't make much difference. It's not bad, but it's also not very good. So I'm gonna put it in like a high C tier. No, I'll put it in low B tier. Yeah, that feels right. All right, Volt Filament. You know, is that Volt Filament? Yeah, this is Volt Filament. This one is pretty good. Especially, this pairs really well with the Egoflealia if you are going for a Silk Skill spam build. Because what this does is it's basically like the Polyp Pouch, but for Silk skills. It adds like a lightning status effect to your Silk skills. Like, it can really multiply your damage output by a lot very quickly. So, really fun to do. Yeah, it's pretty solid. I like it. Nothing against it. I didn't use silk skills much myself because I prefer to preserve my silk for healing. But yeah, it's solid. I'm gonna put it in B tier. All right, Sting Shard. This one is fun. You get it pretty early in the game, so especially in the early game, it's really useful. It's basically just lays a trap, and then if enemies walk into the trap, it does a bunch of damage to them. So if you can get proper placement with this tool, it is phenomenal. But again, I personally think it's not very useful later. The later you get in the game, I feel like there are better tools later. So But early game, it is really good. I highly recommend getting this and trying to learn how to use it, because it's also very difficult to use it, which is another reason I'm only putting it in high B tier, not A tier. All right, next up is the Long Claw. I am a big fan of the Long Claw, especially with the Wanderer's Crest, because the Wanderer's Crest is my favorite because the DPS, like with you can swing so fast with that. Um, your attack speed is just amazing. With this basically, the only weakness of the Wanderer's Crest is that you can't, like, you don't have much range with your swing. It's a very short little, but with this, like, this kind of evens it out. Like, this takes the one weakness of the Wanderer's Crest, in my opinion. There might be others, like lack of red tools, but this takes, like, the main weakness of the Wanderer's Crest and just completely evens it out. So the Wanderer's Crest becomes amazing with this. Like, this is what it is right here. Yeah, easy A tier for me. Probably high A tier. All right, Wreath of Purity. I like this one a lot because bile water maggots are a pain, and this gives you immunity to them. It can break if you spend too much time taking a bath in the acid, but if you do not, then it is amazing. Bile water and the putrefied ducts are so annoying to deal with sometimes that this just like completely takes like the main threat out of those areas and just negates it. It's phenomenal. It is only useful in those areas though, not much else. It doesn't have much use anywhere else. So that's what I'm gonna go low A tier though, just because in those areas it is so good. Yeah. Our next up, I believe it's called the Injector Band. This one just increases your heal speed. Nothing bad about it. If you're in an area where you can't exactly get heals off very easily, it's like Quick Focus from the first game, which I used a lot. It's pretty good. But I feel like the better thing to do is to find spaces in each boss arena where you can stop and heal, like safely, like safe spots essentially, like if you wall jump up the sides or something. So yeah, go check out the video we did on Silksong bosses ranked. In some of the fights, I gave few spots where you can safely heal in each arena, so go check that out if you have time. Yeah, Injector Band is pretty solid. I mean, I never used it, but it's solid, but I never used it. I'm gonna go B tier. Nothing bad, nothing great. Alrighty, Thief's Mark. This one's risky. Because, I mean, with rosary farming, it's great. Because it gets you a lot more rosaries. Especially if you can find out a farming method to get, like, that gets you, it's, like, relatively safe. What it does is it gets you extra rosaries and whenever you kill an enemy. But every time you get hit, you drop rosaries. You can pick up the rosaries, but if you're, like, say, grinding in the coral chambers or whatever, and you get hit, and a bunch of your rosaries fall into some spikes. You can't get that back. Actually, I don't even remember if they actually drop. They might just be gone. Yeah, I don't remember. Anyways, it's pretty solid. Only useful when you're actually rosary farming, of course. So, but whenever you are rosary farming, it's pretty useful to have. It is risky though, so really try to avoid taking damage. Okay, next up is the Fractured Mask. This one, I never really used this one, but I've heard that it is so good. I've seen it used in so many builds. This is basically how my dad beat Steel Soul mode, is he would equip this, and whenever the mask would break, he would immediately just save and quit back to the bench, because he's about to die. So this is like the last safeguard, like if this breaks, go back. Plus, it's a free extra bit of health, which is amazing in that game. So, again, the more health, the better. So I'm going to put this in A tier. I never used it, but I missed out. So don't be like me. Get it, use it, forget about it. All right, I believe this Memory Crystal is next. This one is actually more useful than it seems. Yeah, essentially what it does is when you get hit, you leave behind a little crystal thing that if an enemy comes into contact with it, it's very similar to the Sting Shard in a way. where if an enemy comes into contact with it, it'll like explode with a bunch of spikes and hit the enemy a bunch. It does a lot of damage. Again, there are probably better blue tools you can use, but this one is really solid. Yeah, I ended up using it a lot more than I thought I would have. It wasn't like in my main build, but for a few specific circumstances, I did end up using it. I'm going to go a high B tier for this one, just because there are better blue tools. Here we go. Cogfly. Easy, easy S tier. This is like the buddies from the grub flies. I forget what they're called, but the buddies in Hollow Knight 1, but like way better. Phenomenal. These guys, like, what they do is they're little buddies that you can summon that just come out and just like immediately home in on enemies and then just fly around them and like dealing a ton of damage. Like, it's very satisfying. You don't have a lot of them, so if you do use them, you have to kind of learn how to space them out through the boss fights. But yeah, they are really good, especially if you pair them with the Pollet Pouch. Then you have poison cogflies running around killing everything, so that's really fun. I didn't really use them much outside of boss fights, just because I don't want to waste them. Because the shell shards are very valuable, and you don't want to spend them all replenishing your cogflies. But yeah, really good when it counts. All right, next up is the multi-binder, another easy S tier. Multi-binder basically lets you heal 4 health instead of 3 health, and for just a slightly longer heal time. But personally, the heal time isn't much longer, and the way it works is you heal 2 hits of damage. You heal like 2 masks of damage in a shorter amount of time than the normal heal 3 amounts of damage is. Then you heal another 2 and the same amount of time later. You can't move between, but yeah, so if you get hit in that gap, you still have the healing from the first 2. So that would just take damage from that. I'm not explaining this very well, but you get the idea. This is phenomenal. Really ups the healing game, especially if you could find those safe areas to heal in each boss arena. It really helps. It can literally be the difference between life and death in several instances. Yeah, my brain, the English language is so hard to speak, guys. Help me, everybody. Okay, next up is the Druid's Eye and the Druid's Eyes. These guys are, again, I'm going to pair these two together because the Druid's Eyes is literally just an upgraded version of the Druid's Eye. It just gets you, essentially what it does is it just gets you a tiny bit more silk when you get hit, when you take damage. So it's not much silk though, and yeah, I don't think they're very useful. I mean, I'm sure other people can find useful ways to use them, but I personally never use them. The amount of silk you really get isn't worth it. It's only like half a tick or something. I don't remember what it is, but yeah, not useful. I'm gonna put the Druid's Eyes in C tier and the Druid's Eye in probably D tier. I never use them. They're not very good. I mean, if you could find a way to use them, I'm sure it's amazing, but personally, I don't feel like they're very useful. All right. Next up is the Volts Vessels. Again, this one's solid. It's only useful in specific circumstances, though. Like, there is a skip. I'm not sure if they patched it out yet, but there was a skip you can kind of do with these to, like, break through a wall and completely skip the Roll the Great fight. But yeah, and then you can use them on the Father of the Flame boss fight once his core opens up to, like, just one-shot it. But, again, enemies in that game move around so fast that they're not going to just sit still in one spot and wait to get zapped by that. So it's really hard to actually use in any way. Essentially what it does is basically just poke this stick thing into the ground and it summons a giant lightning bolt to come and strike it a few seconds later. So if you can get it to hit enemies, it does a lot of damage, but if not, it's not very useful. C tier. Next up is the Pinterest Badge. This one's basically just reduces the time of your charge attack. I never really use charge attack all that much. It's not amazing. I mean, if you use charge attack, it can be decent, but the charge time isn't terrible as it is. So I'm gonna go C tier. It's just kind of mid, kind of right there in the middle. All right. Next up is the long pin. This one, I'm gonna go high B tier on it, just because I use this a lot, especially in the earlier game. So it was like one of my main go-to red tools in the early game. It's really good, does a pretty solid amount of damage, kind of has a fun little curved trajectory, like you're hurling a javelin or something. It just feels kind of fun with that in that way. Yeah, I recommend using it, especially in the early game. I think it gets outclassed by other tools later on, but pretty good to start. Straight pin. Again, this is I think the first red tool you can get. It's basically just like a little knife you just chuck out. Doesn't do much. It's just very simple, basic. Teaches you the basics of red tools. I'm gonna put it in C tier, just because it gets like there are way better tools later on. It's useful for what it does, but yeah, it wasn't designed to do much else. Okay, next up is the threefold pin. Yeah, the threefold pin. This one is I'm gonna go B tier just because this one was kind of in the same category as the long pin for me. It was my go-to early game tool, so it's like basically it just throws 3 straight pins in like an arc. So you can hit a lot of stuff with that, especially if you get close up to a big boss like the Last Judge, and just hit it with all 3. It does pretty solid amount of damage. Um, but yeah, again, once you get to like Act 2 or whatever, it kind of gets outclassed pretty quick. It's good for what it does. I'm gonna go low B tier on that. Our next up is the Flint Slate. This one's essentially just another version of the Flea Brew, except it adds a fire damage to your attack. So I think you can pair it with the Pullet Pouch again to have like a fire poison attack, which is pretty neat. But it basically just gives you a short damage boost, is what it does. Nothing amazing. I never used it much. I'm gonna put it in a high C tier probably, just because I feel like the Flea Brew is better for that purpose. Yeah. All right, next up is the Quick Sling. Quick Sling, I don't like the Quick Sling personally. I'm not a big fan. At first, I kind of thought it like I, at first I kind of thought it like multiplied the amount of tools you could throw, so it like doubled your inventory. So like say if you try to send out 1 cogfly, it would send out 2 cogflies, which it does send out 2 cogflies, but instead of only using up 1 cogfly in your inventory, it actually uses both cogflies. So it's kind of just there. I mean, it lets you throw tools faster, but you already throw tools fast enough. Plus, it uses up a blue slot, which I feel like blue slots are better saved for much better stuff. So I'm gonna go high D tier probably, just because it doesn't have like any use. I mean, I guess if you're trying to go like a tool spam build, then maybe. But yeah, I don't see it being used as much. All right, next up is the Reserve Bind. This one's actually really good. I like it a lot. I didn't use it a ton, but when I did use it, it was very good for its purpose. Essentially, what it does is it gives you a backup reserve bind, exactly like its name. Yes, I know, I'm hilarious. Not actually, no. But anyways, it basically just gives you a reserve emergency bind, kind of like an emergency generator. So if you run out of silk and you need to heal right now, then you could use it. But it only restores when you sit at a bench. So it's kind of just like an extra bit of insurance, which is pretty useful. So, but also I feel like if in boss fights, there are other better blue tools to use. So yeah, I'm gonna put it in A tier. Low A tier though. Just because it's really good for what it does, but not amazing. Okay, next up is the Sawtooth Circlet. Again, this one's kind of mid, kind of eh. But if you're going for a tools only build, like a challenge run, I think I think his name is Sample, another YouTuber. He did like a run where he can only use tools to deal damage. And he found this one, and it was just like, okay, runs over immediately because he can just use this to kill everything. He doesn't need to like manage his resources anymore. So I was like, oh, it's a bit of cheating, but it's amazing for that purpose. But besides that, I never use it much in an ordinary playthrough. It's kind of just like a neat thing you can do, but not much. I'm gonna go C tier. All All right, next up is the Scuttle Brace. I personally do not understand this one. It's like a, what is it? Like a turns hornet into a spider and she can scuttle along the floor. It's kind of like a backdash thing. I don't understand. I don't understand what the usage is for this. I don't understand quite how it works. However, it did satisfy my conspiracy theory that Hornet was indeed a spider. And she is. Yeah. Okay, anyways. I'm gonna go high D tier for this. Not very good. What is this one called? The Shard Pendant? Something like that. Essentially what it does, it just gives you more shell shards when you kill enemies, which is really useful because shell shards are very good, especially if you want to use tool builds like I do. And yeah, there's not a lot of other yellow tools. So my main yellow tools that I used were kind of compass, magnetite brooch, magnetite dice, and then kind of shell shard, I think, was the other one. I would sometimes alternate between like that and the Ascendant's Grip, but it was mostly just the shell shard. It's kind of just there. It's pretty useful for what it does. I'm gonna go a high B tier probably, just because it's fundamentally solid. Our next up is the Silk Speed Anklets. Again, really good for speed running and just if you're trying to get someplace fast, but not much else. It basically just makes you run sprint faster, but it uses silk while you sprint. And again, silk is such a valuable resource that I don't like to waste it. So I'm gonna put it in C tier. Because it's useful if you're trying to get around quick, but it wastes silk, which silk is one of the most important resources in the game. The Magma Bell. The Magma Bell is actually really good. I like it a lot. Yeah, what it does is it basically just gives you increased immunity to fire attacks. So at first it makes it seem like you could just walk on lava for a longer amount of time with it, but it actually reduces the damage you take from fire attacks if you have it equipped. It's like against the Last Judge when it goes like all fire attack on you, and like the Father of the Flame where all his only attacks are fire attacks. It's really good. But besides that, it's not much. There's not much use to it. But it's like the Wreath of Purity. For what it does, it's really good at it. But besides that, it's not. We can go low A tier. Next up is the Warding Bell. I know a lot of people really like this one, but personally, I didn't find much use for it. It does help you. Basically, what it does is it puts a barrier around you while you're healing. It's kind of like the Balder Shell from the first game, but here's the only thing is that if you get interrupted while you're like in Silksong, if you get interrupted while you're trying to get a heal off, it is devastating, and like you take damage and lose all the silk you were trying to heal with. This one helps with only one part of that. It makes you so you don't take the damage, but you still lose all the silk you were trying to heal with, which can be just as devastating in most circumstances. I don't like it as much, honestly. I know a lot of people really do, but for me, I think it can only go so far as high C tier. It's probably the hot take of the day, honestly, but yeah, it doesn't feel very useful to me, honestly. Stitch Pick is another interesting one. I never really used it as much. Again, like most of these, but I mean, wait, no, not D tier. It's pretty solid. I think what it does is if you harpoon into a foe, it makes it so they drop some rosaries and shell shards. I'm not sure. Maybe it deals more damage. I really don't know. I never really used this one or like read about it. I think I just got it like late into the 100% run, then never really looked at it. I'm gonna put it in like B, probably low B tier, just because I really don't know what it does. I know, like, I have a vague idea, and what it does sound useful, what I think it does, but I don't know for sure. Okay, next up, Spider Strings D tier. I mean, honestly, it's useless. I mean, maybe in certain very, very specific circumstances, but what it does is it just, like, increases the range of your needling, which is like, what? Why do I need that? How does that help me in any way? Unless I'm like maybe if you're like trying to get the singing dialogue from some of the bosses, it's like no. Besides that, like in a normal playthrough, it doesn't help in any way. I mean, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong about this, but I personally just don't feel like it does anything at all. Yeah. All right. Next up is tax. Tax is another S tier for me. Below S tier, this is one of the best red tools. Like if you combo this with the cogfly, and you can just shred, and the polyp pouch, you can just shred through most bosses, especially big bosses that just kind of try to just sit there on the ground, like the Unraveled. This thing does monster damage to them. Basically, you just throw out 5 tacks on the ground that just sit there and like deal a bunch of damage to enemies that step on them, and then they'd go away. Um, you can only have 10 tacks out at a time, so don't try to just spam them, or else you will start losing your tacks. But yes, for what they do, they are amazing. They can do so much damage to things. Yeah, I love it really a lot. All right, next up is the Silk Shot. This tier list only has the mountain Silk Shot thing, which yeah, I don't know much about the other ones, but yeah, this one basically it just consumes. I think it consumes your silk to just like shoot like a beam of stuff at people. Does it consume your silk? Yeah, it does consume your own silk. I looked it up. But yeah, it consumes your silk to just fire like a beam at people. So it's like a standard shot. You just fire at it, at people, whatever you want. It's cool. I'm gonna go B tier, just because it's not amazing, but it does what it needs to do. I feel like there are other better red tools such as Tax, Cogfly, and Curvesicle, but yeah, it's pretty solid. All right, next up is Weavelight. Weavelight is another S tier for me, just because, like, especially in the late game boss fights, this is so useful. Like late, like you want to get as much silk as you can to be able to heal in those fights, and this does so much for you on that regard. Like it is phenomenal. It's fantastic. I love it to death. Yeah, it literally just gets you more silk when you attack things, and it's amazing. Like, yeah, this is easily in my boss fight build every single time. I love it. Equip it, get it immediately, forget about it. Our next up is the weighted belt. It's basically just a steady body from the first game, where if you hit something, you don't move back as much. I never found much use for this or the steady body. I mean, it's okay, but also, again, not really useful. I'm going to put it in C tier, just because you don't really need the knockback isn't too bad to deal with if you just kind of keep a little bit of pressure on your control stick, like keep moving forward. So it works. I mean, it's not bad, but I don't like it as much. All right, last but certainly not least, because least is the spider string thing, because it is terrible and sucks forever and always. We are going with the Wispfire Lantern, ladies and gentlemen. The Wispfire Lantern is essentially the buddies from the first game where it costs your silk, but it spawns little fireballs that go and smash into things and deal damage. It's pretty useful, but also uses your silk again, which is such a big disappointment, and you need your silk so much in this game. But it is really cool to have giant fireballs smash into everything, so I'm going to put it in a low B tier. Yeah. That's going to bring it to the end, everybody. Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. Hope you guys learned some things. Please like and subscribe, comment down below. Share the love and support. We need it. We're just a small channel just starting out, and we could really use some help. Yeah, I guess I will see you next time. Take care.